Jodi McKay, why did you sign that letter? What was your motivation?
Well, I think it's important to note, and I've released the letter, I did not provide support at all for the person involved. We have a policy within my office where we don't provide character references and we don't provide support. It was a cover note that was attached to documents. Those documents were from the Uniting Church, from the Catholic Church and from Hillsong, and it was a cover note that has somehow made its way to the tribunal, and the tribunal has listed it obviously as a letter of support, and it is categorically not a letter of support.
Sorry, what do you mean it somehow made its way to the tribunal? I mean, this is a convicted paedophile.
Well, the letter itself,
deportation.
Yeah. So the letter, sure. So the letter itself
would it not be used for formal purposes like that, like a bridging visa application, when it's referred to in your note, which we just put up on the screen to show up?
Yeah. So I was approached by a constituent of mine who is obviously, I think the letter I wrote explains his involvement. He's a much respected member of my community, and he approached me about this matter. As I said, I don't write letters of support, I don't write character references, but he asked if I would provide a cover note which would go over these letters of that were from the Uniting Church, the Catholic Church and Hillsong, and that's what I did. I think MPs make a judgement call based on what they believe is best. My judgement call is not to write letters of support. I did not write a letter of support, and I've been quite rightly outraged today about that being directed at me, because I categorically did not, and anyone who reads that letter can see that there is no support given in that letter.
Well, it can certainly be construed as giving support when you ask the tribunal tasked with assessing the man's case to consider the documents and circumstances when considering his application for a bridging visa. You can see why that is being construed as you giving support.
No,
you raised the issue of judgment. No. Your predecessor, John Robertson, sent a letter on behalf of the Lint Cafe gunman to a government department over a family custody matter. Considering that recent example, do you now agree that, in hindsight, it was poor political judgment to put your name to this?
Well, can I say that these are two very different issues, as you rightly said. He wrote a letter on behalf of that individual, sent to a department, and contained details where he was advocating on. I did not write a letter on behalf of this individual. I did not write to any agency involved, and I did not include details within the letter. It is very, very different.
Have you learned anything from this experience? Do you now acknowledge it was poor political judgment?
No, look, what I feel today is a great sense of sadness for the family involved, that they've been dragged through this. They've obviously gone through a very, very difficult time, the two young women involved. I don't know this family, but I do very much think of them today. And, this has become a bit of a political issue in here today, and no doubt I'll be going into question time very shortly, and it will come out again in Parliament. But, we're going to focus on the issues that matter. And as I've said, the Liberal Party...
Sorry, I'll just ask that question again, Jodi McKay. Have you learned anything from this experience? Will you be doing anything differently going forward, or are you happy for this sort of thing to continue happening in your office?
Oh, of course you can't. Well, you can never be happy for this to occur. I did not write a letter of support.
So what will you do differently?
I forwarded documents, and obviously, as John Barilaro said, when you're in an electorate office with an MP, and I appreciate the support he's given me today as Deputy Premier, you make a judgment call. If I had have known in any way about this individual and what he'd been convicted of course I wouldn't have forwarded those documents. But that was suppressed, and I stand by the decision I made not to support the individual within the letter, not to write a character reference. I don't know this individual, I've never met this individual, but I think what is important in this is, as I said, I think of the family involved in this, and if I regret one thing, it's the hurt that this has caused to them, and it would have caused immense hurt to them.
Peter Dutton has posed a question today. He's asking, how many other criminals have you supported? Do you know the answer?
Look, I don't listen to Peter Dutton.
Can you confidently say the number is 0?
At all, I think. Yes, I can. I can say the number is 0. Peter Dutton.
But how do you know that if you didn't carry out
so
sort of background
David
check
Elliott.
on this case? How can you know that with other cases?
Well, I mean, if that information is readily available, then obviously, we would have done those checks. But I can say to you that this information was suppressed, and that's the problem we have. It was suppressed. These were church groups. It was the Catholic Church, the Uniting Church, and Hillsong. These were church groups that was involved. I just wrote a cover note on that, I'm also feeling for those churches today, and my thoughts are with them as well.
Well, church groups aren't exactly infallible. Just because it's a church group, is that something that you're willing to sign your name to it?
No, I come back to the fact that I did not give this person support at all. It was a cover note. And as John Barilaro said today, this is what members of Parliament do. He indicated today that he's written character references for a range of people. I don't do that. I make sure that I do the right thing, and I'm the first person, if I've done something wrong, to put up my hand and say I've done something wrong and I'll accept the consequences. But I haven't done anything wrong here, and quite obviously, we want to get back to talking about the issues important to families, particularly in Southwest and Western Sydney. We'll be doing that today again in the Parliament. We did it last week. The Liberal Party has a dirt unit. They're going to throw what they can at me, and I just have to be true to who I am and the decisions that I make. And when I do the wrong thing, I'll put my hand up and say so.